The arrival of the alien envoy. The year was 2157, and Earth was on the brink of a new era. For centuries, humanity had watched the stars, wondering if we were alone. The silence of space had always been both a comfort and a mystery, but that silence was about to be broken. High above Earth's atmosphere, in the cold vacuum of space, an enormous ship appeared. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It shimmered with a strange energy, its design so sleek and alien that it seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. It arrived without warning, disrupting satellites and communications. The entire world watched in awe and fear as the ship settled into Earth's orbit. On the ground, leaders, scientists, and civilians held their breath. The news spread like wildfire. Aliens have come to Earth. The ship's sudden appearance left the world in chaos. No one knew if they were here to help, to conquer, or simply to observe. Governments scrambled to organize a response, but one thing was certain. Earth's first encounter with an alien civilization was happening. At the United Nations headquarters in New York City, representatives from around the world met in a hastily arranged summit. Fear and uncertainty filled the air as nations debated their next move. It was an alien ship, but what did it want? Was it peaceful, or did it intend to destroy humanity? Just as the tension seemed unbearable, the message came through. A voice, smooth and calm, echoed through the comm system. It wasn't in any language known to humans, yet it somehow reached every person in their own native tongue. "We come in peace," the voice said. "We seek understanding, not conflict. A representative of your species is requested." The world was still for a moment, processing the words. Then, without warning, the holographic figure of an alien appeared in front of the world leaders. This being was tall, its skin a shimmering shade of blue, its eyes glowing with intelligence. It had a humanoid form, but its features were sharp and strange. Its voice, calm and authoritative, continued. "I am Sarlin, ambassador of the Zorathian Empire. We have traveled across the stars, visiting countless worlds, and now we come to Earth. We seek to understand your species, for we have heard of your unique history. No other world we've encountered has avoided war for so long. We wish to know why." The words hung in the air, leaving everyone in shock. Zarlin's question was simple, but the implication was huge. Why had humanity, despite its advancements, its potential for conflict, avoided war on a galactic scale? It was a question that made the hairs on the back of many necks stand up. How had humans, who had once fought amongst themselves in brutal wars, managed to avoid a galactic war? It seemed impossible to the alien envoy, yet it was true. Humanity had a history of conflicts, but over the last few centuries, those wars had ended. Humanity had learned to settle disputes peacefully, something that no other species in the galaxy had done. For Carlin and his people, who had seen countless civilizations rise and fall through war, this was an enigma. The alien ambassador's gaze swept across the room, locking eyes with the human leaders. His voice was measured, as though he was carefully considering each word he spoke. "Do you not have the same violent tendencies as others we have encountered? Have you truly learned to live without war?" Exarlin asked, his voice filled with both curiosity and suspicion. The room fell into uneasy silence. Dr. Leela Stone, a respected human diplomat and expert in interspecies relations, stood up. She was chosen to be Earth's representative in this delicate matter. She had always believed in the potential for peaceful coexistence with other species, but this was an entirely new challenge. She addressed Carlin with confidence, but there was a slight tremor in her voice. "We have learned," she said carefully, her eyes not leaving Zarlin's intense gaze. "We have learned the hard way that war destroys more than it creates. We are not perfect, but we strive to find peace in all our conflicts." Zarlin tilted his head, his eyes narrowing. "But surely you must have had your own wars, devastating ones. How is it that a species like yours, with such violent potential, has avoided the galactic scale of war?" Leela paused, Her mind raced, trying to find the right words to explain the impossible. How could she explain the evolution of human nature, the long path they had taken from destruction to cooperation? How could she explain that humanity had changed, but the rest of the galaxy hadn't noticed? "We were once a species of conflict," Leela began, her voice steady. "We fought wars, both internal and external, until it almost destroyed us. But something happened. We reached a tipping point where we realized the cost of war was too great. Too many lives were lost, too many futures destroyed. We learned that the only way to survive was to evolve, and that evolution led us to seek peace instead of destruction." Zarlan looked thoughtful, but the suspicion still lingered in his eyes. He had seen many species claim peace only to be consumed by violence shortly after. He wasn't convinced. He needed more evidence, and so he made a decision that would change everything. "Take me to the heart of your species," he said. "I will see for myself. I will understand why you, of all species, have chosen peace over war." As Zarlan's ship descended toward Earth, the entire world held its breath. What would he discover about humanity? Could Earth's peaceful reputation really be true? And if it was, what would that mean for the galaxy? The story of how humanity avoided war had just begun, and its secrets were far deeper than anyone could have imagined. The human mindset. An unexpected approach. Zarlan's ship gently landed on the grounds of Earth's United Nations headquarters in New York. The entire world was watching, eyes fixed on the alien envoy and his mysterious mission. In a way, it was the first real test for humanity. Would they prove the Zorathian ambassador wrong, or would the world's peace be shattered forever? As Zarlan stepped onto Earth's soil, the reality of the situation hit him. The planet, so vibrant and full of life, was entirely different from the worlds he had encountered. There was no overwhelming military presence, no signs of tension in the air, only a quiet resolve that seemed to whisper of something powerful beneath the surface. Dr. Leela Stone, now fully aware of the weight of her responsibility, stood at his side, ready to guide him through this human world. "I understand your doubts, Zarlan," she said, breaking the heavy silence as they walked across the grounds toward the large conference room, where a team of Earth's leaders awaited them. "It's not just the absence of war that sets us apart. It's the mindset that humanity holds. A mindset that chooses cooperation over conflict." Zarlan listened intently, his eyes scanning the environment, trying to understand. He had traveled across galaxies, witnessing countless species thrive on conquest, violence, and power. But humans had chosen a different path. "You speak of cooperation, but cooperation alone can't hold the species together in the face of oppression," Zarlan responded, his voice laced with skepticism. "Your species should have waged war by now. You should have taken what you needed by force. Why haven't you?" Leela smiled slightly, her expression reflecting the weight of history. "It's not just about what we need. It's about what we are capable of becoming. War is a choice, but peace is our foundation. Our true strength lies in our ability to change, to evolve beyond our past mistakes." As they entered the conference room, the large round table was filled with human leaders from all corners of the globe. The air was thick with tension. No one knew what Zarlan would think after everything he had seen, but one thing was clear: the future of Earth was in his hands. The human leaders exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to explain their civilization's choices to an outsider who had seen countless species fall victim to their own destructive impulses. Zarlan took a seat, his gaze sharp and inquisitive. "What is it that makes you so different?" he asked again, his voice carrying a tone of frustration mixed with curiosity. "Your species is on the edge of the galaxy, isolated from the major powers of the universe. Why haven't you fought to claim your place among the stars? Why do you resist what seems to be your natural fate?" A deep silence followed. No one spoke at first, unsure how to approach the ambassador's question. Finally, Dr. Stone stepped forward, a quiet resolve in her eyes. It's not about resisting our fate. It's about changing it. Humanity once fought, like any other species. We once waged wars that nearly tore us apart. But through those struggles, we learned something. Zarlin's eyes narrowed, intrigued despite himself. And what exactly did you learn? Leela took a deep breath. We learned the true cost of war. We learned that the greatest victories are not those won with weapons, but with ideas, understanding, and cooperation. We realized that power doesn't lie in domination. It lies in unity. We choose not to fight because we understand that war leaves destruction in its wake. We fight to build, not to destroy. Zarlin remained silent, contemplating her words. In all his travels, no one had ever spoken of war in such a way. Every civilization he had encountered had seen war as a necessary evil, a tool of survival. Yet here was a species that, instead of growing through conflict, had found its strength in the avoidance of it. How do you maintain this mindset? Zarlin asked, his voice quieter now. How do you ensure that this belief is not lost in the chaos of your own nature? Every species I've encountered has struggled to find peace. It is fleeting. Dr. Stone looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the world leaders. We've struggled too. We've made mistakes. But we've learned to adapt, to build systems that promote dialogue and understanding. We no longer allow hatred or fear to control us. Instead, we seek knowledge, compassion, and unity in all things. Zarlin shook his head slowly, still struggling to fully grasp the concept. And you think this can last forever? That your species will never resort to war? Not forever, Leela said with a somber tone. But we believe that peace is a process, not an end. It's a constant effort. We work every day to ensure that we don't fall back into old patterns. It's not about being perfect, it's about trying, even when it's difficult. Zarlin was quiet for a long moment. His mind raced, torn between what he had learned and what he had always believed to be true. Could a species really avoid war? Could it be that humanity was not just an anomaly, but a glimpse of something greater? As he looked at the faces around him, humans who had chosen peace, even in the face of countless challenges, he found himself starting to question his own beliefs. In that moment, something deep within Zarlin shifted. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to this peaceful species than he had first thought. Perhaps humanity's way was the future of the galaxy, and he had been too quick to dismiss it. But one thing was certain: he needed to see more. He needed to understand what truly lay beneath the surface of humanity's peaceful existence. And so, with a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty, Zarlin asked the question that would change everything. Can I see it? Can you show me what this peaceful humanity truly is? And with that simple question, the journey to uncover Earth's deepest secrets had begun. The secrets revealed. The days following Zarlin's arrival on Earth were filled with tension and anticipation. The Zorathian envoy had already seen the surface of human civilization, but now he was being given a deeper look into the heart of what made humanity tick. Dr. Leela Stone was determined to show him, to prove that there was more to Earth than mere survival. It was a planet where something extraordinary was happening, and Zarlin needed to understand why. The tour began with a visit to one of Earth's most renowned peace organizations, the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Here, humanity's commitment to peace and diplomacy was on full display. While most of the universe's powerful factions sought power through war or control, Earth had chosen a different path. The very walls of the UN building spoke of cooperation, understanding, and dialogue. Zarlin was taken aback. The space was simple, unassuming, but the energy of unity was palpable. There were no weapons, no signs of conflict, just the hum of conversation and negotiation. Alien species across the galaxy would have laughed at the idea of such an institution. How could peace be maintained without the threat of force? But here, humans were proving otherwise. As they walked through the building, Dr. Stone explained how humanity had built this foundation over centuries. "We weren't always like this," she said. "Our history is riddled with wars and mistakes, but we chose to learn from them. We decided that our future would not be defined by the past." Zarlin nodded, unsure whether he fully believed her words. He had studied Earth's history extensively. The wars, the conflicts, the struggles. He had seen them all. How could a species that had fought so much, that had nearly destroyed itself, suddenly change course and choose peace? "How did you come to this decision?" Zarlin asked, his voice filled with genuine curiosity. "What made you believe that peace could be the way forward?" Dr. Stone paused, looking out over the city from the UN's towering windows. "We realized that war brings nothing but loss. The cycle of destruction only breeds more conflict. And after many years of fighting, humanity understood something essential. True strength isn't found in war. It's found in compassion, in the ability to unite despite our differences. We came to see that we were all in this together." Zarlin was quiet as they moved from one building to another, visiting museums and archives that told the story of humanity's evolution from a warring species to a united world. The more he saw, the more he realized just how much humans had changed. There was a power in their restraint, in their ability to choose cooperation over domination. "Are you saying that you've truly eradicated war from your society?" Zarlin asked skeptically. "That you found a way to stop it entirely?" Leela turned to him, her expression serious. "No, Zarlin. We've not eradicated the potential for conflict, nor do we believe that we can. But what we've done is built systems to prevent it. We've created institutions that encourage dialogue over violence, resolution over retaliation. It's not about pretending that war doesn't exist. It's about knowing that we have the tools to avoid it, to find other ways of resolving our issues." Zarlin processed her words. "And these tools, are they really enough? How can a society function without the threat of force? How do you protect yourselves from enemies?" Dr. Stone smiled faintly. "We don't rely solely on force for protection. Instead, we've built alliances, shared knowledge, and developed technology that fosters peace rather than war. The strength of our military, while still present, is used only for defense. Our true power lies in our ability to collaborate, to reason with others, and to find solutions without resorting to violence." The Zorathian ambassador was silent. His mind raced. Could it be true? Could a species truly thrive without relying on the weapons of war that had defined so many civilizations? As they continued their tour, Zarlin was shown more examples of humanity's achievements in diplomacy and peacekeeping. There were international relief efforts that helped combat hunger and disease in faraway regions. There were peace treaties brokered between hostile factions, and there were environmental initiatives that showed humanity's commitment to preserving the planet. Everything he saw spoke of unity, of striving to be better. But it wasn't just the successes that intrigued Zarlin. It was the failures. Dr. Stone wasn't afraid to show him the mistakes humanity had made along the way. The scars of war were still visible in human history, and the remnants of past conflicts served as reminders of how far Earth had come. "You've faced great hardships," Zarlin observed, his voice quieter now. "You've been on the brink of destruction more than once. Yet, here you are, still standing, still pushing forward. What's the secret? What makes you different from the others who couldn't change?" Leela looked at him thoughtfully. "It's our resilience, the ability to keep going, to learn from our failures, and make ourselves better. We don't have all the answers, Zarlin, but we're always striving to find them." For the first time since his arrival, Zarlin felt something he had never felt before, a flicker of hope. Perhaps humanity wasn't just different. Perhaps they were the future. A future where war didn't define a species, where survival wasn't guaranteed by force, but by something far more profound, understanding. As the day came to an end, Zarlin was left alone with his thoughts, standing before a holographic display of Earth's global peace efforts. The messages were clear, yet his mind was clouded with questions. Could this fragile peace last? Could humanity truly avoid war forever, even when faced with enemies? Was it even possible for a species to evolve beyond conflict? The answers remained unclear, but one thing was certain. Zarlan had seen something in humanity that he had never seen before, and that knowledge was enough to make him question everything he thought he knew about the universe. The journey to uncover the true power of humanity was just beginning. The test of strength. The following week, Zarlan found himself participating in an unusual gathering, one that stood in stark contrast to the diplomatic meetings and peaceful forums he had witnessed. This time, the focus wasn't on treaties, negotiations, or even simple cooperation. It was about testing humanity's strength in a way that was both literal and metaphorical. Dr. Stone had invited him to witness a live demonstration of Earth's military capabilities, but not in the form Zarlan expected. This wasn't a show of raw destructive power or a display of devastating weaponry. Instead, the demonstration was centered around humanity's ability to face challenges, solve problems under pressure, and collaborate in extreme situations. They were taken to a remote military training base, located deep in the mountains. There, a group of soldiers were undergoing an intense, high-risk simulation designed to push them to their limits. Zarlan was puzzled at first. He had anticipated something more traditional, perhaps a combat demonstration, but this was different. The soldiers were being tested on endurance, teamwork, and decision-making. The simulation began. Soldiers were thrust into a simulated disaster scenario. A natural disaster had struck a major city, and their mission was to save as many lives as possible while minimizing casualties. The catch: they were given limited resources, and communication was nearly impossible due to the nature of the situation. They had to rely on their instincts and their ability to work together, not on advanced technology or overwhelming force. Zarlan watched in awe as the soldiers worked in unison. They didn't rely on weapons. Instead, they used their ingenuity, their creativity, and their profound understanding of human nature to save civilians, clear debris, and restore order. Even when things seemed hopeless, when resources ran low and obstacles grew more difficult, the soldiers remained focused and determined. One soldier, Sergeant Rachel Turner, stood out. She was calm under pressure, always thinking 2 steps ahead, and her ability to keep her team motivated and united in the face of impossible odds was impressive. Zarlan couldn't help but observe her and her team. Their strength wasn't in their weapons, but in their ability to adapt, collaborate, and find solutions without resorting to violence. "Do you see now?" Dr. Stone asked quietly as they watched the soldiers maneuver through the chaos of the simulation. True strength isn't about dominance. It's about resilience, creativity, and the ability to act for the greater good. We're not the biggest or the strongest, but we can endure. We can fight when we need to, but we don't use force as the first option. Zarlan could hardly believe his eyes. The humans were showing him something profound, something that challenged everything he knew about power. In his world, the greatest civilizations were those that had the most advanced technology and the strongest military might. The Zorethians themselves, for example, had dominated the galaxy for centuries by force. But here, humans were demonstrating that their power lay not in what they could destroy, but in what they could build and protect. As the simulation came to a close, the soldiers succeeded in their mission, and the base erupted in cheers. Yet there was no celebration of victory through sheer force. There was only satisfaction in a job well done. The soldiers congratulated each other, shared advice, and reflected on what they could have done better. The experience wasn't about winning. It was about learning and growing together. Dr. Stone turned to Zarlan with a knowing look. "What you've seen here is one of the core principles of human strength, working together to overcome obstacles. They don't rely on superior firepower or technological dominance. They use what they have: intelligence, resilience, and the strength of the human spirit." Zarlan was silent for a moment. This wasn't what he had expected. He had come to Earth believing it to be just another planet that relied on brute force to survive. But he was beginning to see that humanity's true strength wasn't just in their technology or their military, but in their ability to solve problems creatively and work together in the face of overwhelming adversity. "You are truly a unique species," Zarlan said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "I've never seen anything like this before. You've shown me that power isn't always about destruction. It can be about creation, about solving problems in ways no one else would ever think of." Dr. Stone smiled. "That's exactly it, Zarlan. We've learned that our power lies not in what we can take from the universe, but in what we can give back. We build, we heal, we grow. And when necessary, we fight, only to protect what we've worked so hard to build." Zarlan was left to ponder her words as they left the training base. The sight of those soldiers, working together with a purpose, had shaken him to his core. He had always believed that the strongest civilization was the one that could destroy the most. But now he was starting to see the wisdom in Dr. Stone's teachings. True strength lay in the ability to endure, to adapt, and to protect. But even as he saw the power of humanity in action, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to discover, more layers to this species that he had yet to uncover. There was something deeper, something beyond even their remarkable ability to cooperate and solve problems. And with that thought, the Zorathian envoy realized that his journey on Earth had only just begun. The true test of what made humans avoid war was still waiting to be discovered. The secrets of humanity's peace. Zarlan's mind raced as he left the training facility, his understanding of Earth and its inhabitants shifting with every passing moment. For the first time, he saw humanity's true strength wasn't in their weapons or their advanced technology, but in their ability to protect and preserve life. But something still puzzled him. Why did humans avoid war? What kept them from using their strength to dominate others? Dr. Stone, sensing his curiosity, invited him to visit one of Earth's most famous peace-building institutions, a place known for its pivotal role in international diplomacy. It was located in Geneva, a city that had long been the heart of negotiations and conflict resolution. As they walked through the halls of the United Nations, Zarlan was struck by the contrast between the sterile, cold atmosphere of a military base and the warm, collaborative environment of this place. Here, it wasn't about imposing power. It was about cooperation, dialogue, and mutual respect. Here, Dr. Stone explained, "We've learned that true peace isn't just the absence of war. It's the presence of understanding, compromise, and empathy. The reason humans avoid war isn't because we lack the capability to fight. It's because we value life, we value relationships, and we value the future." Zarlan stood in awe as he watched representatives from all over the galaxy work together in the assembly chambers. Despite their differences, alien species from across the stars, each with their own histories, ideologies, and ambitions, they were all united by one common goal: finding peaceful solutions to their conflicts. In these rooms, war was not an option. Instead, human leaders, diplomats, and thinkers worked tirelessly to forge alliances, mediate disputes, and build a future free from violence. "How do you do it?" Zarlan asked. "How do you keep the peace when the galaxy is so full of conflict, so full of tension?" Dr. Stone smiled gently. "It's not easy. It takes time, effort, and above all, it requires a willingness to listen. Humans have learned that if you want peace, you need to understand the other side. You need to be willing to negotiate, to find common ground even when the stakes are high. It's a delicate balance, and sometimes it's not perfect. But we try." Zarlan was struck by the profound wisdom in her words. He had seen countless civilizations throughout the galaxy, each with their own philosophies and methods of achieving power. Some had relied on destruction, some on fear, and others still on subjugation. But none had ever tried the method of peaceful collaboration, of using understanding as a weapon. It was something entirely foreign to him. As they continued to walk through the halls of the United Nations, Zarlan noticed something else. The humans in these chambers were not afraid of their differences. Instead, they embraced them. Species that once fought bitter wars now sat side by side, negotiating treaties, trade agreements, and alliances. It was as if the humans had found a way to bridge the gaps that divided them, not by force, but by fostering respect and understanding. "You see, Xarlan," Dr. Stone said, pausing to look out the window at the bustling city below, "the key to avoiding war is not avoiding conflict altogether. Conflict is inevitable, even among the most peaceful species. What matters is how you handle it. Do you escalate, or do you de-escalate? Do you attack, or do you listen? Do you act in fear, or do you act in trust?" The question hung in the air, unanswered but powerful. Xarlan, still processing the enormity of what he was witnessing, couldn't help but reflect on the lessons he was learning. The humans were showing him a completely different way of thinking about power, about strength. They weren't concerned with domination. They were focused on connection, on building something greater than themselves. Later that evening, Dr. Stone took Xarlan to meet with a group of peace builders, individuals who had dedicated their lives to resolving conflicts, both on Earth and beyond. The conversation was a revelation. These were not diplomats or negotiators in the traditional sense. They were everyday people, teachers, doctors, engineers, activists, who had found ways to resolve conflicts by addressing the root causes of violence: inequality, injustice, misunderstanding. One peace builder, an elderly woman named Ava, spoke passionately about the importance of empathy. When you sit down with someone, when you truly listen to their story, their pain, their dreams, you begin to see them as human. You stop seeing them as an enemy, as a threat. You see them as a person who wants the same things you do: peace, security, a future for their children. Xarlan was stunned by the simplicity and depth of her words. Here, he was witnessing something far beyond diplomacy. It was humanity's collective understanding that the only way to achieve lasting peace was through compassion, not coercion. As he left the peace-building center that night, Xarlan felt a profound shift in his perception of Earth and its inhabitants. He had come to this planet expecting to find a species that used its strength to control, to conquer, to dominate. But instead, he had discovered a civilization that used its greatest strength not for war, but for peace. And he understood now that humanity's ability to avoid war came not from weakness, but from an extraordinary, almost paradoxical power: the power of empathy, of listening, of understanding. As the days passed, Xarlan began to see the true genius of humanity. Earth was a world of conflict, yes, but it was also a world where peace was possible, a world where even the most deeply divided species could find common ground, as long as they were willing to listen and understand. And with that realization, Xarlan found himself standing on the edge of a new understanding. He had come to Earth to study its warlike tendencies, but now he knew that it wasn't war that defined humanity. It was their ability to avoid it, to choose peace when all seemed lost. It was a lesson that would change the course of his life, and possibly the future of the galaxy. The power of humanity's resilience. Xarlan sat quietly in the observation room, watching the human diplomats as they prepared for a major negotiation with an alien faction. The tension in the air was palpable. The stakes were high, and the consequences of failure could lead to devastating war. Yet, despite the pressure, there was no sign of panic. Instead, the humans were calm, collected, and focused. Xarlan had seen many species in moments of crisis, but none had displayed the same level of composure and resolve that these humans exhibited. "Why do you think they're so calm?" Xarlan asked Dr. Stone, his voice filled with awe. Dr. Stone glanced at him, a small smile on her face. "Because, Xarlan, they've learned how to adapt. Humans have faced countless challenges throughout their history, but they've always found a way to survive, to persevere. It's in their nature. They don't run from conflict, they face it head-on. And the most important thing, they don't give up. They don't quit when things get hard." Xarlan was intrigued by this idea. He had witnessed humans overcoming adversity before, But this sense of resilience seemed to be far more than just survival. It was a deep, intrinsic strength that seemed to guide their every action. Even when all seems lost, they find a way to rebuild. Dr. Stone continued, her voice carrying the weight of experience. That's what makes them so different from many other species. They don't give in to despair, even in the darkest times. Instead, they learn from their mistakes and keep moving forward. As the negotiations began, Xarlan watched in amazement as the humans skillfully navigated the tense situation. The alien representatives were stubborn, their demands harsh and uncompromising. But the humans didn't flinch. They didn't respond with aggression or anger. Instead, they listened, they reasoned, and they offered solutions. Solutions that didn't require force, but understanding. How do they do it? Xarlan muttered to himself. They do it because they believe in the power of change, Dr. Stone replied. They believe that even the most difficult situations can be resolved, not through violence, but through understanding and compromise. It's the strength to face conflict head-on and still choose peace. That's what sets them apart. As the hours passed, Xarlan's admiration for humanity grew. He had seen many species in the galaxy. Some were powerful, others wise, but none had shown the same level of determination to avoid war, to avoid destruction. The humans, despite their capacity for violence, had chosen a different path. It was the path of resilience, of building bridges rather than walls. Later that evening, as Xarlan sat alone reflecting on the day's events, he recalled a conversation he had with Dr. Stone earlier that morning. She had told him that one of humanity's greatest strengths was their ability to endure, to push through hardship without losing sight of what truly mattered. They didn't just survive. They thrived, constantly evolving and adapting to the challenges they faced. It was this resilience, this unyielding belief in the possibility of a better future, that allowed humans to avoid war. When faced with conflict, they didn't see it as a reason for destruction. Instead, they saw it as an opportunity for growth, for learning, for finding a way forward. As Xarlan pondered this, he began to understand that humanity's ability to avoid war wasn't a sign of weakness or fear. It was a sign of their strength. Their strength to face their problems, to acknowledge their mistakes, and to find solutions that benefited everyone. It wasn't just about avoiding conflict. It was about creating a future where conflict could be resolved peacefully, where war wasn't the default solution. The more Xarlan learned about humanity, the more he saw that their greatest power wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to choose peace, even when faced with the most challenging circumstances. It was their resilience, their capacity for empathy, and their unshakable belief in the possibility of a better future that set them apart from all the other species in the galaxy. The lesson he was learning on Earth was one that would stay with him for the rest of his life. Humanity didn't avoid war because they feared it. They avoided war because they had found a better way. A way built on resilience, understanding, and the belief that, no matter how dark things might seem, there was always a path forward. And in that realization, Xarlan understood that the future of the galaxy might not lie in the hands of the most powerful species, but in the hands of the species that knew how to endure, how to evolve, and how to choose peace, even when everything else seemed to point toward war. The legacy of humanity's choice. The days following the tense negotiations were filled with quiet reflection. Xarlan had seen many things during his time on Earth, but nothing had quite impacted him as much as the final moments of the summit. The alien factions had been divided, their demands bordering on hostile, yet humanity had managed to hold steady. The atmosphere in the room had shifted, from hostility to cautious hope, all thanks to the unyielding calmness of the human representatives. As Xarlan walked through the bustling streets of the human capital, he couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of admiration that had grown inside him. He was beginning to see humanity not just as a species capable of avoiding war, but as a species that had mastered the art of choosing peace when it seemed impossible. The lessons they had taught him about resilience, adaptability, and the power of understanding resonated deeply within him. For all their flaws, their capacity for growth and change was unlike anything he had ever witnessed. Dr. Stone had spent hours explaining the history of humanity's struggles, the wars they had fought, and the lessons they had learned from their losses. Yet it was their ability to grow stronger from each conflict, to emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of the importance of peace that had caught Sarlin's attention. Humans were not perfect. They had made mistakes, but they were not defined by them. They were defined by their ability to rise again, to learn from their past, and to shape a future that was brighter and more peaceful than the one they had inherited. One evening, as Sarlin sat on the balcony of the embassy, he spoke to Dr. Stone one last time before his departure. He had come to understand something crucial, something he had never expected when he first arrived on Earth. Dr. Stone, I've learned so much from the humans. I've seen how they choose peace over war, how they rise from their past mistakes and keep moving forward. But what I don't understand is, why do they keep fighting for peace? What drives them? Dr. Stone's eyes softened, and she leaned back, her gaze following the setting sun. It's simple, Sarlin. They fight for peace because they know the price of war. They've fought wars in the past, and they've seen the destruction it causes. But they also understand that peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's the presence of opportunity, of growth, of a future where everyone can live without fear. They fight for peace not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. They fight because they believe in something bigger than themselves. Sarlin absorbed her words, his mind whirling with the understanding of the depth of humanity's resolve. He had come to Earth to understand why humans avoided war. But what he had discovered was much more profound. It wasn't just that humans avoided war. It was that they actively sought peace. They built it with every choice, every decision, every relationship they nurtured. They fought for it, not with weapons, but with their hearts and minds, and with an unshakable belief in the possibility of a better future. As Sarlin prepared to leave Earth, he couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. He had come here as an outsider, a mere observer, but now he was leaving with something far more valuable, an understanding of what made humans so extraordinary. They were a species that had experienced unimaginable pain, suffering, and conflict, yet had chosen to learn from those experiences rather than be consumed by them. They had found a way to grow, to evolve, to choose peace, and in doing so, they had become an example for all the other species in the galaxy. Sarlin looked out over the horizon, the last rays of the sun casting a golden glow over the Earth. He knew that, despite their flaws, humanity's choice to avoid war, to seek peace, would forever change the course of history. It was a choice not defined by weakness, but by strength. And as he boarded the ship that would take him back to his people, Sarlin carried with him not just the knowledge of humanity's resilience, but a deep sense of respect for a species that had chosen to be better, to be more than their past. As the ship ascended into the sky, leaving Earth behind, Sarlin's mind was filled with one final thought. The galaxy had much to learn from humanity, and perhaps, just perhaps, the humans would lead the way toward a future where war was not the answer, but peace was.